The Atlanta Braves took 2 out of 3 from the Detroit Tigers today in Detroit with the sweep of the Tigers in today's doubleheader. But it scores at 10-7, 6-5. Atlanta will come home to a successful road home stand against Colorado tomorrow. This is ATL Prime Sports. I'm Todd Corder. Our producer, Wayne, to my right on the screen. And others calling in the voice, the public address announcer of your Rome Braves, Larry Gardner. Welcome, Larry. AJJ's not here today. And guys, welcome.
All right.
Glad to be on, TC.
We have not been on together in forever. Our schedules are a mess, but I'm hoping to change that now for at least the remainder of the summer. All right, guys, we can start the show. You can get a hold of all of us at ATL Prime Sports, myself at Corder Todd, Larry at LG4 Real Though, JJ at JJ Get You One, Wayne, our producer, at RWY Jr. You can go see all our shows on Twitter Spaces, some of them, on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and etc. And we had a show today at 3 o'clock that was live on Twitter Spaces. AJC investigative reporter Alan Judd joined me for a conversation regarding the Georgia football program and all the off-the-field issues they've had since Kirby Smart has been head coach. Go check that out. I think it was a fair interview from each side, each perspective, and check it out. We appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and talk about our topic tonight, Major League Baseball and the Atlanta Braves. We let off with it. To me, the biggest story, Larry and Wayne, isn't the Braves sweeping 2 from the Tigers, even though it's very important because it keeps them 5 games up in the NL East with a record of 42-26, Miami 37-31. But Jesse Chavez dodged a bullet off the bat of Miguel Cabrera today. He took it right in the shin bone. There's more tests to be done. X-rays are negative, said Brian Snicker. And you know, Larry, to me, this was huge news because he's been an all-star for Atlanta, and this has been his best year of his career. He's always had great years with Atlanta. He's been with several teams in the major leagues. I want to say 7 or 8. And I don't know what it is about wearing the A and the Braves tomahawk across the chest, but Jesse Chavez loves it.
No, he's been great, man, this year, and I'm pushing the big bandwagon for him to be an all-star this year because the most ever traded player in the history of Major League Baseball is an all-star knocking on the door to being 40 years old. That's almost unheard of in this era of Major League Baseball, but he has been the most steady bullpen hand for the Atlanta Braves all season long. Even with a injury-ridden pitching staff, Jesse Chavez has been the one constant that if Snicker made that call to the bullpen and he comes in, you can just about guarantee that he's not going to make the lead any bigger than what it is when he leaves. And those having that kind of reliability in this day and age, that is few and far between, but he is definitely, in my book, he is definitely an all-star. But you make a good point, TC. The main story today is not the fact that they swept the doubleheader, the both games of the doubleheader, but the big story is, Spencer Strider is probably going to have to develop a third pitch for him to be the type of big league starter that we as Atlanta Braves fans want him to be, because once people start figuring out the fastball and the slider, the harder you throw it when people hit it, the further it goes. So I would love to see somebody teach him a split finger fastball or even a sinker, and I think it would allow him to get to the level that we as Braves fans would like for them to see. That's number one. Number two, the return of Michael Money Harris doing Michael Money Harris things. I was so happy to see him have the games that he's had today. And I even posted it on Twitter, TC. You don't need to get into a batting where you're trying to out-hit people 10-7, 9-6. It's good that you know you can, but as the closer you get to the playoffs, you're going to have somebody in this pitching staff is going to have to step up so that we can have some reliability. Your thoughts?
Well, we'll take one subject at a time. Actually, I'm going to talk about all these subjects, and I like it. You and I are on the same page. That's a lot of fun. Chavez, we'll start there first. 31st appearance? He's like fine wine. He's getting better with age. His ERA is 1.55. He has a save, but that's not the number to me. The number to me is stopping and making so many appearances out of the bullpen and shutting the other team down. So if Atlanta's behind, they can take the lead. And if they're ahead, they can keep the lead. To me, this is incredible. I think he deserves an all-star berth this year. And, being a reliever, as you know, Wayne and Larry, it's a lot of it. The players decide a lot of this, along with the coaches and the managers and executives and et cetera. So that's not part of the fan vote for the All-Star game. So I like his chances. And when a team's in first place, Larry, as you know, they always get the benefit of the doubt with more players in an All-Star game. Let's see. You talked about Spencer Strider. It wasn't pretty today. You mentioned about the third pitch. Look, he's 7-2. He won in game one. He went, 7 innings. He gave up 5 runs, 5 earned, 2 base on balls, and 6 strikeouts. But he gave up 3 homers, and one of them was Miguel Cabrera, which happened to be his this year. And, some of those home runs might not have been home runs today, but Larry and Comerica and Wayne, the wind was blowing out. Usually it blows in. It's a huge park. And the fences are closer now than they were when the park was configured back in 1999, 2000. 1999 was the last year of Tiger Stadium, 2000, first year of Comerica. But you're right about Strider. And to me, about Strider, it's about where you're locating your fastball and you're missing with your off-speed pitch. And then you mentioned the pitch that's straight from my heart, Larry, the split-fingered fastball. Roger Craig is the one that taught it to Jack Morris back in the 80s when Sparky Anderson was the coach, and Roger Craig was Sparky Anderson was the manager. Roger Craig was a pitching coach, and he made that pitch so successful for Jack Morris. And when they won the World Series, went 35-5-star, bless you boys, and won the whole thing, they led from wire to wire. He taught Jack Morris that pitch. And Roger Craig, who passed away last week, was a pure class act, great manager for the Giants, took San Francisco to the playoffs, and just had a tremendous baseball career. And the split-fingered fastball, as soon as you said that reminded me of a podcast that I heard earlier in the week. You're right about Spencer Strider, no question. He started off Strider did, 3-0 in April, 1.80 ERA. In May, he was 2-2 with a 4 ERA. And this month, he is 1-0, but his ERA is at 9. And Larry, he does need a third pitch. You're right.
No, I would love to see him get to a point now, and he's got people around him that could do it. The question is, how often could you even get Smoltzy around him to teach him that third or even a fourth pitch so he could build the type of longevity that we want him to be, because we're going to need him down the stretch, TC.
Oh, no question. I mean, especially the injuries to Max Fried, the forearm, expected to be back in mid-July. You never know. And then, of course, Kyle Wright with a shoulder injury, and he's out till at least July 22nd. That's 2/5 of your rotation. You're having to throw guys in like Dodd today who don't look ready. Remember the Tigers, who all of a sudden started hitting the baseball this series later. Larry, they were, and Wayne, they scored the least amount of runs in Major League Baseball this year. And they still have, even though they had a good series. Torkelson turned into Babe Ruth a couple of times this series. When he's the number 1 pick, Tiger fans expect that from him. But he really has been missing a lot this year until this series. But, Larry, the record is good for Atlanta. they'll most likely win the division, but it's going to be a lot tougher with your 2/5 of your rotation out, and it'll be impossible to navigate the playoffs if these guys aren't healthy, because it's all about timing and where your starting pitching is and whether it's healthy, because as you know, you can't win without it.
No, you can't win without it. And I know it seems like we're coming down doom and gloom and everything else, but you know, the story that really people really need to pay attention to is Atlanta is just amazing to be where they are.
Yeah,
That's just a drop call.
And I'm still here. I was trying to gather my thought, but it's amazing Atlanta is where they are in spite of the injuries that's just depleted the pitching staff. You know, if you'd have told me at the beginning of the year that Atlanta was going to be down Max Fried, they were going to be down Kyle, they were going to be down Ian Anderson, Bryce Elder was going to be your best pitcher, and you'd have told me that they were going to be in first place, I'd have told you were smoking some good stuff from Wayne's side of town.
You know what? Elder, and you mentioned Strider, and then also Charlie Morton, the old veteran. You know, it seems like Larry and Wayne, these old guys, it seems like the more they throw, the more they get better. They're like fine wine. And we've had some other older pitchers in Major League Baseball this year have outstanding seasons. It's something. The arms today, back in the day, a little bit. I mean, this isn't going far back in the day, but even more back in the day, they could throw 135 pitches a game. And today, if it reaches 90, the fire alarm goes off in the dugout.
No, you're absolutely right. But you know, we talk about our ages and stuff and how we watch baseball. You know, long gone are the days, and I'm not even gonna go too far back. Are the Roger Clemenses and the Pedro Martinezes and the Randy Johnsons or the Kurt Schillings that were gonna pitch 9 full innings regardless of what it was going. It's gotten so specialized to the point to where if you've got a starter that can give you 6, you're good to go. Now you just need 3, maybe 4 bullpen arms, that of course including your starter, to try to help finish the game out for you. Problem with that is now that you incorporate these bullpen games, which I detest and abhor worse than God hates seeing, but if you continue to do that, what you do is you begin to tax your bullpen. And then what happens is it's a given fact. You know how you always say about follow the money, you'll find your answer about everything else? Well, the one thing in baseball you can find your answer in is there's going to be somebody in the bullpen who's going to have an off night, and you just don't know when it is. It's like walking in a minefield. You may step around it, but eventually you're going to find something that's going to blow you up. And
well, you're
unfortunately,
right. I was going to say you're so right. I would rather have an organization bring up a starter from AAA if he's doing pretty well than go to a bullpen day, because you're right, Larry. You're going to tax that bullpen, and by the time you get to the end of the season, and if you're good enough to make the playoffs, if you tax your bullpen and it's shot, you don't have a chance, because guys aren't throwing like Roger Clemens or Clayton Kershaw or Justin Verlander or Max Scherzer, who are, that's another story. They're struggling. Kershaw's not, but Verlander and Scherzer are, and the Mets paid $80 million for that, and it's really not working out for them right now. Maybe it will during the second half of the season. There's a long way to go, but you're right. And you know what, Larry? Not only is it different from a pitching standpoint, Larry and Wayne, but it's different from a hitting standpoint. When the Yankees had those dynasties in the 90s, they weren't a home run hitting team. They were a team that worked the pitch count, put the ball in play, and used their starting pitching, and of course Mariano Rivera at the end of the day. And they would just base hit you to death, and they didn't even have a 30 guy home run hitter during those 90s. That's how much the game has changed, Larry.
Well, it's all, listen, that Maddox Smokes and Glavin said it best in the 90s. Chicks dig the long ball. And with fantasy sports, the rise of the betting culture and being able to bet on any and everything with a device in your hand, and the ability to be able to move the needle with the home run so much, you know, that's why baseball has become what it's become. And it's also why if you can get a hitter that's hitting 275, now that's a good batting average. Whereas you look 15, 20 years ago, 300 hitter was a good hitter. If you get in the 330s like your Tony Gwynn's or your Derek Jeters, those what you call your Ichiros or your guaranteed contact hitters, you know, you have people that you knew were okay fulfilling the role, and they were okay being who they were. They knew they were not going to be 30, 40, 50 home run hitting guys. They were okay hitting 300, 330, accumulating 80 to 100 doubles, and driving in 75 to 100 RBI. You know, now if you don't hit 40 to 50 home runs, people look at you, you're toast. You know, truth be told, the Atlanta Braves have 7 legitimate people who could easily, if playing every day, hit 30 home runs in that lineup.
No doubt.
In the 90s and early 2000s, that was unheard of.
And you know what? You made a great point. The lineup is not only deep, but it's powerful, and it's powerful off the bench. I think Atlanta has the best lineup in the National League. In the American League, it's probably in the top 3, but the National League is definitely the top. And speaking of lineup, let's start at the top and talk about Ronald Acuna. Now, this is a guy, 15 homers, 40-something RBIs, hitting 333. He's got 29 stolen bases. Okay, the stolen base rules have definitely inflated that number. And, you know, I would love to see Ronald Acuna at Comerica Park every day, because he would be spraying the ball all over the place, and his power, and he'd increase his doubles and triples because the outfield is massive and he can run. He's really an old school player, is Ronald Acuna. The only part that's not old school, Larry, is when he hit the ball in a screw the first time up today to third base and didn't even decide to run down to first base. That was forbidden back in the day. That's something I'd like to see change. But everything else, he really hustles and he's fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll even go 2 steps further with you. If he continues this pace, which I don't see any reason why he wouldn't, this is probably his best statistical year of his career up to this point.
Yep.
He's running away with the MVP voting in the NL, and it's not even going to be close.
No doubt. And guess what? I wonder how many stolen bases he'll have. Could he get to 100? It's possible if he stays healthy. 90 to 100.
Well, no, you're right. But the key thing, I think he's got a target number. If he does what, let's just say he goes 30-70, he'll be the first person to do that since the 1987 Cincinnati Reds player Eric Davis.
Oh, man. You just number 44. There's a number 44.
Yes, sir.
Cincinnati that's pretty good today. We can discuss that before we go off the air. But yeah. Hey, Larry, let's go back to Harris. You know, I bet JJ that Harris will have a 280 average at the end of the year. What is he at now? 221. He was down in the mid 100s. On Monday, went 3 for 4 with an RBI. And the first game today, he went 4 for 4 with 4 RBIs. I know he was 0 for 4 in game 2, but he's back, and he's hitting better than his stats show because he's hitting the ball in the screws.
Oh, most definitely. Some guys, you know, everybody goes through their sophomore slump. It happens. It's happened from the great ones to the Hall of Famers. That's why they call it the sophomore slump for a reason. Yep. But the thing that I like about it is even in the midst of his slump, he was knocking the cover off the baseball. He was just hitting it right at people. And sometimes, even when you tinker with some things, and we saw that last year when he was coming up from Rome, you know, they were trying to make so many hitting adjustments. By the time he got to AAA, they wanted him to lose some weight because he was a little chunky. Well, he started losing weight, but then he also went back into a slump. So he gets on the bus, tells him to stop at a convenience store, and he buys up all of these junk foods. And the trainer sees him doing it and scolds him. He's like, what in the world are you doing? He said, I hit better when I'm chunky.
You know what? I'd let him hit chunky all day too, Larry. I think that's a great story. And he's just a big built guy. He looks older than his age, and his physique to me looks older than age. And that's a compliment, by the way. I think the guy is an outstanding player. And Larry, you know what set him back too? Is he got hurt earlier in the year. And that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? They adjust. The pitchers adjust. Once they get a book on you, they can read you. Then it's up to the hitter next to adjust.
No, you're right. It's literally like it is like any other sport. We saw it with the NBA Finals. You know, the Miami Heat came through and they won one of the games, and Coach Mike Malone figured out a way to adjust, to exploit what Miami wanted to do, and they ended up running away with the series. Same thing here as a hitter. Once they get the book on you, a pitcher will begin to find your weaknesses and try to exploit them. As you do, as you learn, if you want to be a proficient hitter, and one of my favorite hitters of all time, I've heard him say this multiple times, and that's Rod Carew, legendary hitter with the Twins and the Angels. He would always say, you got to continue to watch what you do wrong so you can fix it, and then you get better at it.
That's right.
He's done that.
Right. You're so right. And, you know, these young guys that come up, they start banging the ball off the cover, and then the pitchers make the adjustment. Their average goes down. Then the hitter makes the adjustment. And that's when you can tell whether that hitter is going to stick in the major leagues, is that second adjustment. If he makes it and he hits, then, you know, he's going to have a great career. And I'll tell you what, speaking of a career that has been turned around in an adjustment, is Arcia. My goodness, this guy, he belongs on the All-Star roster too for Atlanta. He was 2 for 4 in you know, he's hitting .331. I mean, what a player at shortstop for 3 years, and how much? What's his $7.5 million, whatever his contract is. In today's world, Larry, that is a steal, and he can play some D.
Dansby who?
No, I said Arcia.
No. I was saying it on purpose.
Dansby who?
Yeah, Dansby who? Yeah, we're not missing Dansby at all. Although a lot of Braves fans would probably disagree with me, but from what we have been able to get out of Orlando Arcia, that's been so unexpected, is him hitting for average, and his defensive glove has been phenomenal. And if he keeps this up, he's well on his way to a Gold Glove. And again, credit Alex Anthopoulos with believing in his talent, knowing that Orlando could handle the position and make things happen. And you just at the beginning of the season, I'm not going to tell you a story. At the beginning of the season, I was afraid because, you know, once you got through Ronnie and Matt Olson and Austin Riley and Sean Murphy or Travis d'Arnaud before he got hurt, and Ozzie, it was like, okay, now we got Ozuna. Oh, we don't know what we is it gonna be? Well, is it gonna be Rosario? You know, you didn't think you was gonna get that same production from the bottom 3 or 4 that you did from the top of the half or the top 2/3 of the order. So right now, I think Orlando Arcia is leading shortstops in the National League voting for All-Star. Well deserved. Keep up the good work. I'll tell you, 1 through 9, I was thinking about it when you said this. I said the only other team that I think, NL or AL, they could probably give them a run for their money 1 through 9 is the Texas Rangers with Mr. Wayne, my man, in Memphis. And unfortunately, they caught a buzzsaw with the with the Oakland A's and the things that are going there. But
Angels, Los Angeles Angels.
Yeah.
Well, they also saw Tampa. Texas lost 2 out of 3.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what?
We all go through it, you know.
Right. You know what? Wayne loves my All-Star ballot. I don't know if I sent it to you, Larry, or not. I can't recall. Maybe I think I sent all 3 of you. It's got 3 Texas Rangers on there, And I thought Wayne was going to reach the phone and kiss me. I mean, it was so, he's like, man, I really like your ballot.
Yeah.
You know what?
Well,
I mean, there's so many on there that deserve it, though. Texas is playing phenomenal baseball. And unfortunately, you got Jacob deGrom, who's gone down for the year, but, I mean, they're playing great baseball, Wayne.
yeah. Well, two of the picks that Todd had are the same ones that I've got, but I have
Who's that?
added Simeon and Jung.
Yep.
And the only one that I've got that's different than yours is their catcher, Heim.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Well, so you do have the Corey Seager. You have him as an all-star, right, for Texas?
No,
because I had Corey Seager too.
Well, I had Simeon.
Yep, I had Simeon.
Simeon, Jung, and Heim is who I've got. I don't have Seager.
I had the second baseman you mentioned.
Yeah.
Simeon, Corey, Seager, and Jung. That was my three all-star players from Texas. Guys, I tell you what, the Cincinnati Reds. This is the last topic. We gotta go. The Cincinnati Reds are starting to remind me. They're young. They're bringing up several players from the minors. Matt McLean, the shortstop, and Ellie De La Cruz, another middle infielder who's playing shortstop and third base. And the Reds will be bringing up another player from Louisville real soon, and Carcion Strand. This team has young pitching. I really could see them take the Central in the second half of the season. You know, Larry, they play old school baseball. They don't hit a lot of home runs. They steal a ton of bases. They advance runners. They got a darn good bullpen. It's really improved from the first half of the season. If their young pitching takes off like Atlanta's did in 91, and maybe they pick up a veteran presence, I don't know if the Reds will with budget concerns. Cincinnati could really make a big-time run. Atlanta goes to Cincinnati next week. That'll be a measuring stick for the Reds, along with playing Houston this weekend. In Houston, you know, the Reds have taken 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers. They have a chance to sweep the Royals. They played well against the Cubs. So, but this Matt McLean hitting over 330, he's been in the league a month. You have to give him a chance for an all-star game. And then the guy that says from the Dominican Republic, Ellie De La Cruz, I'm the fastest man in the world. This guy stole the base in every game he's played in, except for the one yesterday. It was the first time he didn't get a hit. He has struck out at a high rate, so he's got to learn to stay off the off-speed pitches, high, low and outside. He's got to be once he figures that out, he surely can hit the fastball. And I know you've seen him play, haven't you, Larry?
Yes, I have. And, you used the analogy of the 90-91 Atlanta Braves. I'll give you a team that's even more recent that you can look at as a blueprint as to what Cincinnati's doing, and that's the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yep.
They were doing the same thing last year with a bunch of young talent, and now they've gotten it groomed, and now look at them. They're leading the Central Division right now, wide open. Cincinnati's on their coattails, but that's exactly what we saw last year with Pittsburgh. They took their lumps. They started calling up young talent, and now look, like year over year, you see what they're doing. Cincinnati's doing the same thing. They are playing small ball that puts pressure on pitchers and pressure on defense, because one thing you cannot teach is you cannot teach speed. And speed, no matter what, I don't care what event it is other than golf, speed kills.
It sure does. It never goes in a slump. Pittsburgh's got 2 proven pitchers. One is Mitch Keller, who's having a great career, and the other one, who's 40-something years old, 43, and Rich Hill. I mean, talk about being over the hill, but being really good. Those 2 are really helping the Pirates' rotation. We don't know how long they'll stay in it. O'Neal Cruz, who's like Ellie De La Cruz. He was named, O'Neal Cruz was named after Paul O'Neal. That's who his parents named him after. He's from the DR too. O'Neal Cruz is hurt. Hopefully he'll come back before the end of the year for the Pirates. And you know what? That's going to be a fun Central Division, no doubt, Larry. It will be. I don't know if Pittsburgh can hang on. They do have more pop with Jack Sawinski in the middle of the order, but they don't take as many bases. But Andrew McCutchen is all of a sudden had just a wonderful year with Pittsburgh, and he's been revised since he's been there.
You talk about the veteran presence that Cincinnati might need. I think that veteran presence for Pittsburgh is what's got them where they are. If Cincinnati could get somebody, and it may be somebody that people have long forgotten about, thinking they're over the hill, no pun intended, long in the tooth or whatnot, to come back and just mentor these kids, to teach them how to be professional major league ball players. I'm telling you, look out, Cincinnati, the big red machine 3.0, 2.0 might be right back there, the Great American Ballpark.
Larry, that is the biggest bandbox, and we're going to wrap up the show here as I was getting ready to. It's 8:34 Eastern. Joey Votto's the guy. He's going to come back. He's not very far away. He's down in Louisville now with the bats, and he's swinging a good bat. That could be the veteran presence in the lineup to help Cincinnati. We'll see if they pick up an arm. That'll do the show, guys. I really had a lot of fun tonight. You can catch all of us again at ATL Prime Sports. Myself at Corder Todd, Larry at LG4 Real Though, JJ at JJ Get You One, and of course our producer Wayne in Memphis at RWY Jr. Go check out all our shows all over Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Go check out the show we did on Twitter Spaces today with Alan Judd, the investigative reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, talking about the off-the-field issues with the Georgia football program. And, of course, a lot of the blame goes to the CEO of Georgia football, Kirby Smart, but I don't think it does. I think there's a lot to blame to go around, and we talked about that during the show. Check it out on Twitter Spaces. You can get it at all of our accounts. That'll do it, guys. Thanks a lot. I really enjoyed the show, Larry. I can't wait to talk to you again next week. And Wayne, thanks as always. And we'll talk to you guys later. We'll see you next week.